Presentation today before we go to lunch. How's everybody feeling? You guys ready for a little bit more? Hope you guys are all doing well at home. I'm excited for this one because Lainie Liberti is a friend, an ally, a multi-time speaker here at the People's Reset. And she's doing, I think, some of the most important work. Everybody who's at our event is doing important work in different ways. But she's focused on parenting, on children, on families in general, and our relationships. And it's actually kind of cool, I think, because later on Sunday, we're going to hear from Brenda Smith, who's going to be talking about home birthing and midwifery and how freedom starts from birth, right? And then you got somebody else like Lainie, who then tries to empower the young people, the young adults, the teenagers, and the families to shake off the indoctrination and some of the programming. And I don't know about you guys, but some of us out here have had messed up families. Does anybody out there have a weird family situation? Your family was perfect, right? Like everything was good? I got it. Well, some of us had the weird misfortune, maybe it's all meant to be in the end, but some of us had the misfortune of having some different home lives and experiences, and we had to do some healing from our trauma. And Lainie does just some really amazing work again around that for the entire family. So please make some noise for Lainie Liberti, everybody, to the People's Reset stage. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy.
The best and longest self-development course I've ever taken is called Parenthood. It's a journey that stretches you, challenges you, and transforms you in ways you never imagined possible. Parenthood asks us to examine not just what we do, but who we are. And it reveals our deepest wounds, our unresolved patterns, and our unconscious beliefs. And the most humbling part, our children become the mirrors reflecting back to the places within us longing to heal. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lainie Liberti, and I stand here today not only as a parent, but someone who has devoted her life to understanding what it truly means to raise sovereign, self-actualized, and emotionally healthy human beings. But before we talk about them, the children, the teens, the next generation, let's talk about us. Let's talk about you. Because here's the truth. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot model self-regulation if you never learned it yourself. You cannot teach emotional safety if your own inner child never felt safe. And you cannot create partnership-based relationships with your children, with your lovers, with your community, if you're still operating from unhealed wounds rooted in authoritarianism, fear, or control. This is where the journey begins. It begins with you, with your healing, with your decision to stop the cycle of pain and trauma that has been passed down through generations. And I'm not here to tell you it's easy. I'm here to tell you it's worth it. And I'm here to tell you that our future depends on it. Let me share a story with you. A few years ago, I was working with a family, and the mom came to me feeling utterly defeated and disconnected to her children and to her husband. The problem? Her son. She complained about how her teenage son had grown distant, angry, and defiant. She described their relationship as a battleground. She desperately wanted him to change, to listen, to respect her, to behave. But as we dug deeper, it became clear that her son's defiance was a reaction to her own unresolved pain. She was parenting from a place of fear, trying to control him. Through our work, we discovered that she had never felt control in her own life, that this subconscious desire to have control was ruining her relationship with her son. Together, we worked on her healing. We explored her triggers, her childhood beliefs about what it meant to be a parent. And not just a parent, but a parent in partnership. It was the very same thing she desired when she was growing up. And something miraculous happened. She began to heal. Her relationship to her son and to her family had transformed, not because her son had changed, but because she had. This is the power of partnership parenting. It's not about fixing your child. It's about becoming the kind of person your child feels safe to partner with. It's about creating a relationship rooted in mutual respect, trust, collaboration, and shared values. And it's about connection over control every single time. I want to tell you about another client that I worked with. Years ago, it was a young teen girl who had an eating disorder. We worked together twice a week in conjunction with an eating disorder specialist. Right away, my client and I uncovered that her teen angst was firmly rooted in her mother's parenting style. Her mother dictated what she should study, what outside interests were appropriate, what she could wear, and who her friends were, and how she spent her time. When my client tried to make her own decisions, she was always met with criticism and ultimately control. The result of her mother's constant disapproval had a numbing effect on my client. My client expressed to me that she no longer felt the light inside of her, and using her words, she just wanted to fade away. After a couple of months, it was obvious that my client could not heal in the presence of her controlling mother. I urged her client to admit her daughter into a residency program that could support her eating disorder and her depression full time. And of course, the mother was resistant, but I convinced her it was the only way that her daughter could heal. But the other reason why I did this was so that my teen client could get away from the well-meaning control of her overbearing mother. In order to learn who she was outside of that system of control. She needed to learn what amazing power and resources she could cultivate from within. And she needed that space for her own bodily autonomy. And years later, I did hear from my young client. She's now a young woman, doing great, having cultivated a healthy relationship to food. She's also living on her own and making her own decisions. So healing is possible. The way that we parent our children has a profound effect on who they are and who they will become, if they feel safe to follow their own inner guidance, live in alignment with their own values, they are less likely to be controllable as adults. Think about this. Those that are controlled as children are easier to control as adults. Now, let's take a moment to reflect. So, please raise your hands if any of this feels true to you, and do leave your hands up. How many of us were raised in a household where respect was demanded and not given? How many of us grew up in an environment where love felt conditional based on behavior or achievements? How many of us were yelled at growing up? Some of us yelled at on a weekly basis, some of us on a daily basis. Yeah. And how many of us grew up feeling like our emotions were dismissed, punished, or ignored? Yeah. Look around. We're not alone. And together we have a lot to overcome. But we can change this dynamic. So hands down. This is not a critique of our parents. And in most cases, they did the best we could. But if we want to raise a generation of children who are emotionally resilient, self-aware, and compassionate, we must do better. We must heal ourselves first in order to break these cycles. When I was growing up, I was yelled at each and every day. My nervous system was always dysregulated, and I was in a constant state of heightened alertness, often activating my fight, flight, or freeze response. In my formative years, I experienced the holy trinity of dysfunction: shame, blame, and criticism. I internalized many of these messages I heard into believing that I was inherently bad, that I was doing something wrong, that I was not enough, and combine that with I was too much for people. Talk about faulty wiring. As a young adult, these beliefs eroded my self-confidence and self-worth. I often self-sabotaged and felt unworthy. In my early 20s, I lived with hypervigilance. I lived with limiting beliefs about myself, and I sought out partners who ultimately would treat me poorly. Even when I managed to find a partner who was kind, I did this unconscious dance of pulling them close, then pushing them away, and pulling them close and pushing them away, until eventually I sabotaged that relationship too. Suffice to say, I was quite unhappy until I started down a path of self-healing. And for those of you wondering how long the self-healing path takes, you guys know this one. It never ends. Yeah. When I became pregnant in my early 30s, I wanted to make sure I'd be a better parent than the parents that I had. I read every book I could get my hands on and explored the many parenting styles, things like conscious parenting and peaceful parenting, hand-in-hand parenting, and attachment parenting, and so many others. I took what resonated for me and left behind that which didn't. I focused on raising my son, developing his emotional intelligence, and creating a strong connection between us through strong, respectful communication. Our story is a little different than most families, and if you're not familiar with our story, the quick Reader's Digest is as follows. So, my son and I left behind our conventional life in 2009 for a life of travel. He was only 9 when we left the States, and our adventure took much longer than we anticipated. I raised him from ages 9 to 20, living nomadically, traveling around to more than 40 countries. And we lived our lives in partnership and spent almost every day together over those 13 odd years. Crazy, right? If any of you have spent significant amounts of time with a family member, you know it's bound to be filled with challenges. We learned each other's trigger points. We had to learn to practice the utmost kindness and compassion where it mattered most. Our foundation at the core was partnership. Yes, we both had different skill sets, desires, talents, interests, and needs. But we approached our multi-year adventure in the spirit of partnership. We based our communication on the promise we both be accountable for our inner worlds and for sharing when something was no longer in alignment for either one of us. Nothing was ever perfect, but we had the skills to overcome whatever came our way from an external world perspective or an internal world challenge. We both use mental health tools as a way to manage some of those big challenges. One of the gifts that I gave my son was sharing authentically about my own childhood and how I was committed to overcome my early childhood programming and be a better parent. I told him if he had ever perceived that I was acting like my mother, all he had to say was, "Mom, you're acting like grandma." And hearing that phrase, I was instantly jolted into pausing whatever conflict was going on. And after I regulated my own emotional state, I could then and only then intentionally repair whatever rift I was causing. My son used that phrase only when it was important, never out of anger and never to hurt me. And in fact, he used it as a loving way to communicate that we were no longer functioning in the spirit of partnership. Partnership parenting is a radical departure from the traditional authoritarian model many of us grew up with. It's about seeing your child not as an extension of you, not as someone to control or mold, but as a sovereign being with their own thoughts, feelings, and purpose. It's about shifting power over to power with. And it starts with simple, profound shifts on how we show up for one another. I'm going to give you 5 quick strategies you can start today. Number 1, listen to understand. How often do we listen to respond rather to understand? When your child speaks to you, please hear their words. Or Are you too busy listening to your own fears or judgments? Active listening, truly being present, is one of the most powerful ways you can build connection and trust. Number 2, repair, not perfect. You will make mistakes. You will lose your temper. You will say the wrong thing. We are all human, after all. The goal is not perfection. It's about repairing. When you mess up, own it. Apologize. Model humility. Model accountability. This is truly the key to connection. Number 3, create emotional safety. This means holding space for your child's emotions without judgment or trying to fix them. Let me say that again. Holding space for your child's emotions, even the big ones when they're having a temper tantrum, screaming on the floor. Hold space for those big emotions without trying to fix them. It means being their calm in the storm. It means being their safe harbor to return to no matter what. It means being regulated yourself, especially when they are not. Number 4, challenge your beliefs. If you find yourself auto-responding, you're running a program. Ask yourself, where did I learn this? Is this programmed belief serving me? Is it serving my child? For example, the idea that children must obey without question might stem from a belief that compliance equals respect. But you and I know that true respect is earned and can never be demanded. It's your job to know where your internal parenting program is coming from and question it. And in fact, question everything. Yeah. And finally, number 5, embrace collaboration. Partnership parenting is about co-creating. Instead of imposing rules, create a family culture where you live from a place of values and principles. Rules in your family create a need for rule makers, rule enforcers, and ultimately punishers of those broken rules. Trade in an authoritarian paradigm for a paradigm of partnership. Partnership does not mean giving up boundaries. It means setting them together in a way honoring everybody's needs. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but what about in the real world? What about when my teen slams the door in my face and refuses to get off their computer? What about when I'm exhausted, overwhelmed, and hardly holding my shit together? Here's the thing, partnership parenting is not about avoiding conflict. It's about approaching conflict differently. It's about seeing those moments of tension as opportunities for growth, for connection, and ultimately for healing. It's about choosing curiosity over judgment, empathy over anger, and connection over control. And the rewards, they're profound. A home where everyone feels seen, heard, and understood. It's a relationship with your child that grows stronger over time. And perhaps more importantly, the knowledge that you are raising human beings who will go out into the world equipped to build healthy, respectful relationships of their own and not be willing to fall victim of unhealthy cultural perspectives or pressures. To close, I want to leave you with this thought. Healing yourself is the greatest gift you can give to your children, to your family, and to your community. It's not selfish, it's essential. Because when you heal, you break that cycle. You change the narrative and you create a ripple effect that touches everyone around you. So I invite you to embark on this journey, to commit to your own healing, to embrace partnership in your parenting and beyond. Together, let's create a world where respect, collaboration, and compassion are the norm, not the exception. It starts with us. More importantly, it starts with you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It's early. So I guess I finished early, so I guess I could answer questions if you have them. Yes.
Just wondering if you're available to come on podcasts if anybody here who has a
Sure. Easy. Sure. Actually, one of the reasons why I'm standing here is I was invited by Derek and Miriam and the organizers of this conference to help cultivate more of a family atmosphere here at the People's Reset. I brought with me tons of games and activities for the littles. We've got an art station, which is out in the gallery area. And I invite everybody to tap into their own creative sense of playfulness, because playfulness really feeds our imagination, helps us to cultivate our own ability to solve problems, and it helps us to connect to one another. So even if there aren't a ton of children here, let's be playful as children. And this experience hopefully will show that next year we're going to have 50 children joining us. We're going to have families. We're going to have 100 children joining us the year after. For me, it's really important. Derek always talks about the next 7 generations. And it starts here. It starts now. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, yes. Hi, Maria. It's not on.
To people that have never heard of the concepts that you're talking about, can you please tell them how Mira actually turned out?
How?
Mira, your son, turned out because he was raised,
Oh,
this way, and people might be wondering, if I let my kids do whatever they want, are they just going to be a couch potato for the rest of their life? So please share.
Thank you, Maria. So my son was here on the stage with me at the second grader reset. He, again, as you heard, was raised in partnership, and he was raised without school. He was raised as a self-directed learner. And he is now 25. He's at my house watching the dogs. So he couldn't be here. But he's an amazing human being. He has started his own business. We work in partnership on 2 businesses together. We own a board game cafe together because the spirit of playfulness is really a big part of our family culture. We have traveled the world. He tutors young self-directed learners, and he teaches online. And he's got a wonderful girlfriend. He's 25, and I hope that he makes me a grandma someday soon. So he's doing wonderful. He's great, and he's a great guy. He's a lot of fun to be around. And he's designing board games. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, of course.
Hi. So
Hi.
I've got a beautiful 3-year-old son who, understandably, is a freedom-loving rebel like his dad.
Yeah.
But accordingly, there are certain things that we need to do, like get him to nursery on time, and certain things that require boundaries. And one of the things I've struggled with is try to create the space when he's in flow, doing his own thing, but we need to go. What would you suggest when it comes to supporting him through the things that we know need to happen on a certain time without becoming in any way authoritarian? Because that is my greatest fear as a parent.
Yes.
I become a command and control, and I really just want to liberate and empower him to recognize what he needs to do on time, for example.
Well, 3 is quite young, but absolutely explain to him and do not dumb it down. Talk to him about your family culture. Our family culture is one of respect. However, we function in this world. And so, as a family, we're committing to go to the nursery to do this. And sometimes we have to stop in the middle. But if he's got big feelings that come up as a result of switching gears, sit with them, honor them. Never reduce what he's feeling as not being important. Sit with them. We're not here to fix our children. We're here to create safe spaces so that when they do have these big feelings, they feel safe to express them. And you are the safe person to have that experience with. Also, let them make mistakes, let them fail, and be there for that as well. And talk through it the whole time. Talk through it. This will become part of his programming, understanding that communication is a part of the experience, the big experiences and the little experiences. Yeah, and I hope that that helps somehow. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, hi. I have
Hi.
a quick question.
Mhm.
And all what you were saying today was very, very helpful and applicable. What do you advise on screen time or the use of electronics? I'm talking about children.
Mhm.
And when you even already have, it's already there, so now it's weaning off or replacing or substituting or with something else. What do you advise on that? Speaking, I'm telling you, I'm
Yeah.
from Canada, where most of the year is mostly indoor because of the
Yeah.
weather, right? So limited options with physical activities outside the door, or maybe it's my limiting belief. So what do you advise?
Well, yeah, I would have you first look at that because you're bringing that to the partnership. You're limiting belief about expectations of what he should be doing. And that's a big part of it. I'm not anti screens, but I'm not pro screens either. I'm talking about approaching this in partnership. I'm actually holding a workshop discussion group on this topic because this topic is alive for almost every parent that I've ever met, right? So we're going to unpack that in detail. So I'm not sure, look at the schedule. It's not today, it's in a couple of days, and it's going to be on the lawn. So please come and let's unpack that together. Yeah, of course. And I'm not sure how I'm doing time-wise. Time for any more?
We can do one more. You want
Okay.
to go, Andrew?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. We'll
Oh,
go
and
one.
also to let you know, I brought 10 copies of my book here, and there's a whole chapter of tools for mental health that you can do as a family. So find me if you want a signed copy. Yeah. Last.
Yeah, I have a question
Oh.
here. It feels a little bit weird to talk about my son, so we're going to talk with him.
Yeah, hi.
This is Eli. He's
Hi,
almost
Eli.
3, and we have one of the common stumbling blocks of a family, which is we have another 10-month-old, and he's very lovely with her, is very excited about her, and but there is often times when he has certain impulses, like doing just certain kinds of behaviors that are more appropriate to stuffed animals or to furniture and stuff, and he might do them with her. And we're having some difficulty just, and this might be something I can work with you one-on-one as well, but just with how, when I talk to him, I try to validate, I understand it's difficult to have a sister who takes your toys and these kind of things, and we set the boundary, I can't let you hit her and these kind of things, but it gets kind of old just like repeating that boundary and like not, and because like I know it's a repetition thing, but
Yeah.
if I try to talk to him about it, like, hey, what are you thinking of when you're doing this? And like, what are you trying to get? And like, just trying to help facilitate meeting his need without obviously having him hitting his sister and that kind of thing. Are there any recommendations for, like, 'cause when I ask him, he often just will start talking about just something random. Cause I mean, who wants to address the awkward feelings? So do you have any recommendations as far as addressing awkward feelings with toddlers?
Well, first of all, I want to say I see you. You're doing it. You're doing everything right. And you had your own answer. It's repetition. I see you. It's hard. Parenting, I mean, it's a journey and it takes patience. If there is ever an issue with your own not being regulated, that's when you need to be able to have the language to say, Mommy needs a moment. Mommy loves you. Mommy needs to take care of Mommy right now. And then go up and repair, because he doesn't understand I'm dysregulated. My nervous system is up. But he does understand that if you're not available in the moment when he needs some, repair, hold him afterwards. I feel better now. Mommy just needed mommy time, or whatever your language is. Patience and repetition, patience. But I see you. You're doing it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Make some noise for Lainie Liberti, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys understand what I was saying earlier about, for those who, well, first off, who's their first People's Reset in person? Yes, that's really cool. We got a lot of new people. Awesome. So hopefully by now you're gathering that we consider this to be a very holistic event. As I said earlier, each of the pieces we think are important. So there are people who are coming here who are permaculturists who maybe have never thought about how breathing. And there are people who are coming here as technologists who maybe haven't ever spent any time in the garden, and vice versa. And so we think each of these pieces is important. And I just appreciate each of you hanging out and spending time with us today. I want to give you a couple of announcements before we do go to our lunch break. First of all, I want to remind you, when you walk out, of course, we have all of our amazing vendors. Go see them, show them love. We have local vendors. We have vendors who've come from elsewhere. And check out their products. That's why they're there. That's like our Agora, our open marketplace where we can exchange. You might notice there's no taxes here. And of course, we even appreciate it and are grateful for those who use barter, who use cash, of course, those who use crypto, who use the Tumen, where we're going to hear more about on Friday. Any alternative forms of currency is really what our community is about. So I just want to appreciate all of you who do make that effort to be outside of the system as much as possible and not be tracked and traced. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like big brother, big sister, whoever, all up in my business. And it's better whenever the business is just those of us here in this room. So we're going to continue after lunch. We have Jason Christoph coming up. We got several other speakers who are really powerful. We are going to have our first Spanish talk in the second half of the session. So as I said earlier, those who don't speak Spanish, if you want to hear the talks, and I think you probably will, in English, you'll need to check out headsets as the Spanish speakers are currently doing. And we also are going to have the networking session at 4 o'clock in this room. Anybody who's interested in networking, getting to know more people, and specifically under this theme of mental, physical, spiritual health. So wherever you're at in that journey, maybe something Lainie said you really identified with and you want to come here and network with other people who are parents or who are dealing with family issues and struggles and journeys, come here at 4 o'clock. Or if you really identified with what Mark was saying about the breath work or any of the topics, anything under that banner, that's what we're going to be doing every day, having these networking sessions under those themes. And then finally, after you get through our lovely vendors and you walk outside past the registration table to the left side, and this is, again, a benefit for our friends at home. This is why you want to be here in person, because you don't get to see the awesome art gallery. You don't get to see the vendors. You don't get the workshops. We make the rest for free, but I mean, you guys know, like, you got to be here, right? Make some noise and get our friends to come here next year. We need you here. Come hang out with us. Be a part of the movement. We want you guys in person. But when you go out there, to your left, you'll see the Visionary Art Gallery. This is our beginning, our first time ever doing this. We have local artists. We have artists who come from around the world. It's also part of the Freedom Families initiative that Lainie is helping out with this year. So we got an art making session. It's not just for the kids, but the kids are definitely welcome. Well, let's say kids of all ages, right? Kids of all ages are welcome. I'll be in there making my own little trading cards later, but go check it out. We got visionary artists. All their pieces are for sale. So if anybody sees something they like and want to take it with them, the artists are selling their work, and there's arts and crafts and all sorts of fun stuff. And then, of course, the workshops will be happening in the green space. There are a couple workshops on the website that are listed as in the activation room or the manifestation room. That is at the hotel. So those who are staying at the hotel or know it's a short walk. Walk inside the lobby, go up the stairs, and you'll see signs. They've got signs already ready to lead you to those different rooms. So some workshops in the green space, some of them over at the hotel. And I think that's it, guys. So thank you so much, guys at home. We'll see you after lunch in about an hour and a half. Make some noise, my friends, for part one, day one of the People's Reset. We'll see you soon. Thank you, guys.